Hello, guys. Did you know that you can send someone to court for failing to marry you after he or she promised to marry you? Yes, that is what we refer to as the breach of marriage promise. And this is not only for ladies. If a lady promises a guy that I'm going to marry you and she does not put herself in the situation where you can marry her, my dear, you can send the person to court. That is what we'll be talking about today. Stick with me to the end of this video. Let's do this. So the breach of promise to marriage is when someone promises you that I'm going to marry you, but the person does not. And then you send the person to court. But the truth is that the court cannot force anyone to marry you. What the court can do is that the court can award damages to you, where you bet me out body chronic what you say. Now your mouth baby kakana or their show. That is what the court can do. But the court have to satisfy itself and agree that the promise that the person made to you was very serious. Now note, promises that are made during sex, you guys were having intimacy, you guys were happy, and then, oh, I'll marry you, or me too, I'll marry you. That is not a substantive, that is not a serious promise. When you decide to go for a walk, you guys are happy, and then you promise each other, that is not a substantive or a serious promise. But serious promises, like the person did knocking, as in our tradition, the person brought his or her family to your family to tell them that I am with this lady and I am going to marry her. The person makes it official. That way, that is a way of a serious promise, and the court can base on that. Again, if the person gave you a proposal, as we see on social media, he knelt before you, gave you a ring with other witnesses, and you have evidence that this person proposed to me, this person promised me in the presence of other people, this is the ring he or she gave to me, that he or she is going to marry me, that the court can also base on that to be a serious promise. Please, when you go to his house or his family and friends are calling our wife, our wife, our wife, that does not form part of a serious promise. I haven't heard that someone sent someone to court because his or her friends called me our wife and he or she didn't marry me, our wife or our husband, let me put it that way, and he or she didn't marry me. But if there was a knocking, there was a promise with a ring to show, or a video or something to show that that promise was serious, then the court can base on that and then award you some damages. But there are two types of breaches. We have the anticipatory breach, and the anticipatory breach is when the person tells you that you are pregnant. When you give birth, I'm going to marry you. Or the person tells you that when you complete school, I'm going to marry you. Or when the person tells you that your mother doesn't like me, the day your mother dies, I'm going to marry you. And then you've seen that whatever situation the person gave. For instance, the person, you were pregnant, the person came to do knocking that I would marry you when you give birth. The time is not even, you've not given birth, and then you realize that the person has married another person. And even that, it has to do with the type of marriage the person married. So, for instance, someone promised you that I'm going to marry you in the customary way, I'm going to marry you in the traditional way. I mean, the man promised you that. And then you have not given birth, but you realize that the man has married someone else in a customary way. That's the court will not, that not form part of anticipatory breach, because in our tradition, we accept polygamous marriage. And when the person marries the other lady in the customary way, it means that the person potentially can marry you when you give birth. But then, if the person says that, okay, when you give birth, I'm going to marry you in the court, we are going to do marriage under the ordinance, which is monogamy, but you haven't given birth, and you've seen that the person has married someone else in the court, making it monogamy, which leaves no space to you, that is an anticipatory breach. The second type of breach is non performance breach. For instance, the person tells you that, as I'm saying, if you give birth, I'm going to marry you. You've given birth for 6 months, for 1 year, you haven't seen the person, and nothing shows that the person is coming. Like the person has run away. That is a non performance breach. The time is up. He did knocking, he proposed to you, he made you wait for him or her, whatever the promise he made, whatever the timing is right, but the person has not come. So the anticipatory breach is when the time is up, but the person has done something that shows that he or she cannot marry you. And the non-performance breach is that the time is up, but you cannot even see the person, or nothing shows that this person is ready to come and marry me as he or she promised. When you find yourself in a situation like this, you can get yourself a good lawyer, sue the president, and the court can award you some damages. But then let's look at also some defenses For instance, if I promised you that I'm going to marry you, and then I didn't marry you and you send me to court, there are some situations that I can use to defend myself. There are some situations that the man or the lady can use to defend herself. The first one is mutual agreement. That is when both of us decide that yes, we decided to marry. You proposed to me and I accepted. But based on one issue, one reason or the other, this marriage cannot go on. For example, you both decided to go and test your genotype and you realize that you are AS and ASS. So when you get married, the probability that you are going to give birth to sickle cell children is going to be very high. And so you both have a mutual agreement and decide that no, we are not marrying again. That is something that you can defend yourself with if you find yourself in a situation like that. The second thing is bodily infirmity. And bodily infirmity has to do with sickness in the form that prevents the person from performing his or her duties as a wife or a husband. For example, the person gets a mental problem, or the person gets a contaminated disease, for example, HIV or AIDS, because you have promised me that you are going to marry me and I have accepted, and then I realize, or you do a test and realize that you have AIDS. That doesn't mean that I should by force compulsory marry you. With that, you can defend yourself in the court. Or the person has a disease and the doctors have declared him or her, oh, in the next 6 months or in the next 1 year, you might die. That is bodily infirmity, and the person can use that to defend him or herself. The next thing is fraud or misinterpretation. You proposed to me and I didn't know that you were married. Maybe you've been married under the ordinance, but you frauded me, you deceived me, you pretended as if you were single when you are not single. And later I find out. I can decide not to go on with the promise I made you because you have deceived me and you misinterpreted yourself. And so that is something that the person can use to defend him or herself. And then infidelity on the part of the woman. Yes, I know you will ask what about the part of the man. But as I always say, Ghanaians, we believe our traditional and customary marriage makes room for a man to marry up to more than 10 wives if he can take care of them. But the woman is only one husband. And so if the man promises you that he's going to marry you and then he sees that you've cheated, he can defend himself in court that you committed infidelity and so he cannot marry you. If the man promises the lady that I am going to marry you in the court, we are going to have a monogamous marriage, and then he cheats, then the lady can, based on that, and then go to court and then get her damages. But if the promise was not about monogamy, but he just said, I'm going to marry you, he wasn't specific. If the man cheats, the lady, the man can defend himself in court that you can't leave him, like you can't decide to leave him. I really hope that this video has helped you. Please give me any comments you have in the comment section. But if you're able to satisfy the court and the person is able to defend him or herself, then I am sure that you will have a case. In fact, if you find yourself in a situation like this and you want to sue the person, please look for a good lawyer and then get some cash for yourself, because you cannot waste your time and your ears and then just go scot free. And then she can also not waste your time and then just go scot free. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that. Let's learn about love, life, relationship, and marriage. And I'll definitely see you in the next video. Nyamin Kam.